Hey, Phil here from videoschoolonline.com, and today I have a cool neon sign After Effects tutorial for you. It's a complete step-by-step tutorial, so if you're a beginner, it's perfect. And if you want all of the assets, including the background image, the fonts, the sound effect, just click on the link below because it takes you to a blog article with all links to all of the assets. Plus, you can even get the whole project file so you can follow along or just use that one. So pause this video, go do that, download the assets so you can follow along, and then let's get going. All right, so if you paused the video and you downloaded the project files, this is what you should get. You should get an email with links to all of these resources, or just this direct link with the download. You should get the project file, the brick wall background, the color palette, 2 different fonts, and the neon sign audio. So go ahead and open the After Effects project, or go ahead and just start a project from scratch. This is what it's going to look like though. You might have to reconnect or reload some of those assets if they're not loading properly. Awesome. So if we're starting from scratch, the first thing we need to do is actually build out our sign. And then what we're going to do is add all of the effects to make it look like a neon sign. So let's start a new composition just by clicking this Create a New Composition button. And I'm going to call this Neon Sign Sketch. Whatever you want to call it, 1920 by 1080, 5 seconds is perfect, 2997, great with me. Next, let's add a background layer. So what we can do is use the brick wall and just bring it in here. And I'm just dragging it onto the composition. It's a little too big though, so I'm going to press S to bring up the scale option. And I'm going to drag to the left and put it about 48% or so just to fill the frame. Now we're going to darken this. There's different ways to do that, but I'm just going to add a new solid. So press Command Y to create a black solid. I'm going to press T on the keyboard to bring up the opacity for that solid. Let's just put it at 75 for now. Actually, let's do 50. Let's duplicate this layer actually just by selecting it and pressing Command D. I'm on a Mac. If you're on a PC, that'll look like Control D. So I apologize if I'm using Mac references, but usually it's just Control if I say Command. Now let's take our ellipse tool and actually with the black solid, the one on top selected, let's just double click it and see what happens. It creates these ellipse for us. What we want to do with this layer is create sort of a vignette effect. So let's invert this and then let's feather it out. So the mask property is changed to inverted, press F on our keyboard, and just drag up the feathering to 50 or so. With the black solid below the vignette that we just created, let's put this at 75% for now. We might need to play around with it. All right, now let's add our text. So you can say whatever you want, but I'm going to use our text tool, click down here. I have the Dymaxion script font selected. The other is Clip. So first with this one, let's just type in welcome. And you'll see here that I have a couple settings that I have changed. So let's do welcome to. Let's select all of this text just by, on a Mac, pressing Command A to select all of that text. And then you see here, this is the spacing, the tracking between the text. If you have it set at 0, which is standard, you see there's actually some spaces in between. Because we're creating a neon sign, the effect is that the letters are all connected. So let's change the tracking until all those spaces are closed. Something like that. That's pretty good. We actually might want a space between the welcome and the to. So let's just add a few spaces in between there. But we have this weird little line coming behind the M right now. So I'm just going to select, I believe if I select the O actually and decrease this, now that spacing looks a little bit better. Nice. So that's our first layer. And now you can change the color if you want. And the color, you can use the color palette that I provide, or you can just search for neon colors on Google. But if you take this neon color and you place it in here, or if you just pop it open up here, we can use this to change our colors. And now I've already selected the color, but we can change it if we want. So let's just select our text layer, change our color to green, or yellow. Let's just do yellow. That's pretty good. Okay, let's just hide this. Actually, we'll just delete this color palette layer. Now let's add new text, and I'll say Video School Online. Now you can keep this same font, but what I'm going to do is just select that layer and change it to the clip, which is another cool kind of neon sign font that is free to use from dafont.com. Now I'm going to change the scale and then move it around so that it's about aligned with the Welcome to font. You can make it bigger actually. It might look kind of cool if it was a little bit bigger. Maybe we'll do that for this tutorial. Let's change the font color, and you can see now that we have our color palette up here. It's just selected in our project bin. If we take our Video School Online text, character color, and we can just choose any of these. Pretty cool, right? All right, so that's our text. Now let's create sort of the outline of the neon sign. Not all neon signs have an outline, but we're going to select our shape tool, and let's do our rounded rectangle tool. For the fill, let's make sure that the fill options are turned off to none, so there's no fill. And the stroke, I'm using 7 pixels. For the color, let's change it to this blue. So I just clicked on the color of the stroke, select the eye picker, and now let's choose this kind of neon blue. Now I'm just going to drag over this text. It doesn't have to be perfect yet. I'm going to center this sign or this shape layer. So if you have your align window open, that's great. If you don't, you can go to window, align, and then just click the center horizontal and vertical. Now that aligns that outline to the center of your composition. Now what we can do is take our text layers, let's center them vertically or horizontally actually, and then we can just kind of move them up or down depending on if it looks better. So I'm going to actually move my welcome to text just a little bit down. Same with the Video School Online, something like that. Cool, so that is how we lay out our basic sign. Next thing we're going to do is add the proper effects to it. So let me just close down all of our layers and let's pre-comp these so it's easier to do. So I'm going to select our background layers, the brick wall and the adjustments, press Command-Shift-C or right-click and choose Pre-Compose, and I'll call this background. Now that all becomes one composition. I can double-click to open it up, but I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to select my Welcome to, my Video School Online, and my shape layer. Right-click, Pre-Compose. And I'll call this neon sign text. Okay. So now we have our 2 pre-comps, the background and the neon sign text. What we want to do now is basically create sort of the effect of the neon sign. So let's duplicate this neon text layer and turn off the top one. And this background one is going to be our background off neon sign. So you see in the original version you have the off. So let's make it look like that. Up in your effects and presets, type in fill. And you want to use this generate fill and drag it onto the neon sign text. And actually, let's just rename this to neon sign off. So we know this is the off version. Under fill, let's change from red to a gray. So open up the color picker and just some sort of darkish gray. That looks all right. It looks like it's not colorful, but it doesn't look like a neon sign. So let's add a layer style to this. So right click, go to layer style, bevel and emboss. And this is what's actually going to create sort of that rounded look. You already see it a little bit. And if I zoom in even more, you can see that it looks kind of rounded. But let's go under our bevel and emboss settings and change the size to 10. That looks a little bit more rounded to me. So I like that. We're also going to add a drop shadow. So if we right click, choose layer style again and go to drop shadow, this adds sort of that shadow look. I usually sort of spread out the shadow, make it a little less opaque. So opacity I'll set to 50. The distance I'll set to 10. The spread I'll turn to 25. And the size I'll do, let's just say 15. Maybe the distance, maybe a little bit less, something like that. So I like that a lot. So that's our background layer. Now we can turn on our neon sign text. And first, let's duplicate this neon sign text. Well, actually, first I'm going to change it to neon sign on. So we know this is the on version. So let's just duplicate it. With this first one, the one beneath, we're going to create a blur. So again, in our effects and presets, type in fast and choose the CC, actually not the CC, the fast box blur, and drop that onto this layer right here. Change the blur radius to like 150, and you'll see that it gives this very subtle, and let me just turn these both off, this subtle glow, but it has like those colors. If we change it down a little bit, it might get a little bit more defined, but we're also going to add another sort of lighting effect in a little bit. So I'm just going to leave that at 150. So that's a little bit more of the effect. We're getting there. And now let's add to it. So let's duplicate this one more time because we're going to have two different layers. One is sort of the top bevel and emboss to match the bottom. And the middle one will be more of a glow. So for this top one, let's right click and choose Layer Styles, Bevel and Emboss. And we're going to match the bevel and emboss of the off layer. So let's change the size to 10. And then also for the highlight color, let's just click this and drop that down just a little bit to more of a gray, so it's not as white. We're also going to add a little bit of a glow to this. So let's right click, do a Layer Style Inner Glow. So that adds some sort of effect, but we're going to change that. So drop down the options for Inner Glow and change the source from edge to center. Cool. And maybe just drop the opacity to like 50. Okay, we're going to add more glow, so don't worry, but we're getting there. So you can see that we're adding layers. So turning this on and off, you can see it starts to look pretty good. So with this middle layer, we're also going to add that inner glow. So let's do Layer Styles, Inner Glow. Change that to center, the source from edge to center. But the big thing here is we're going to add a glow effect. So in your effects and presets, go to Stylize and Glow and add that to this layer. Boom, look at that. Pretty darn awesome. And you can see if you turn this on or off, it's looking pretty good. Boom, so that's looking really awesome. It's really vibrant. So this is looking pretty good. In our original one, we have this sort of neon sort of light spilling on the brick background. And so let's just zoom out, fit up to 100, and we're going to add a lighting layer, a lighting effect. Now we're actually not using a lighting effect or the light tool, but we're using a gradient. First, let's create a new solid. It doesn't matter what color it is because we're adding the gradient effect to it. So if you type in gradient, you'll see the generate 4-color gradient and drop that onto the black solid. And let's put this right behind all of the neon signs. First, we want to change the color of this gradient to the colors that we're using for our lights. So I'm actually going to bring in that neon color palette so I can see better, or actually pick those colors. Then go to the black solid. And for the top two, I'm going to choose this yellow, this specific level, yellow. And then for the bottom 2 points, I'm going to choose the pink. Cool. Now we can turn off or delete our color palette. Now let's just move these gradient colors in. So let's just click this little icon right here, which brings up the position. Now if we click anywhere on our composition, it moves it. And now we can drag these points in. So let's just drag these points in quite a bit. So, whoops, don't move it. Just click those points. Let's get the yellow right behind the text. And that's doing pretty good. You can play with the blend here just a little bit if you want, just to blend the colors, but I like leaving it at the 100. So now let's create a mask around this because this obviously isn't what we want it to look like. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to use the pen tool and I'm just going to start clicking while I have this black solid layer selected, just kind of around the text. So I'm making sort of a very unique shape. And I'm going beneath the sign here as if the light kind of casts more of a shadow down. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Not perfect, but we're getting there. If I have this layer selected and press F, I can increase the feathering of this. Something like 250 or so looks pretty good. And we're starting to get there, The next thing I'm going to do is drop the opacity. So let's drop the opacity up here to like 50% or so. And this is the opacity up in the effects presets, not down here. And the reason why we do that is because we're going to animate the opacity down here in our timeline. I also want to change the blend mode of this. So this looks pretty good, but when you go to your modes, and if you don't see your blend modes, just click this toggle switches modes and change it from normal to vivid light. Boo! Wow, that looks pretty intense. So let's actually drop the opacity even more, something like so. And let's just play around with moving the pink just down a little bit so we can see more of that yellow. And the pink kind of shines down, something like that. Hey, that's looking pretty darn good, actually. Cool, so that is pretty much our sign. It's pretty close to the original in terms of style. It's just because the colors are different. The blue, I think, and the pink create sort of a separate, different type of style than the yellow and the pink. The yellow and the pink kind of blend together more, but I like it. Next, it's time to animate. The first thing we're going to do is turn from off to on. So to do that, let's just take all these layers for the on. This is the light layer, so let's just turn it neon light on. So we know it's an on layer. And another thing we can do is select all of these layers and change the color by clicking on the color icon to something like pink, so we know this is it. So if we move this over just a few frames, that's just a hard on, okay? But typically neon signs kind of flicker. And so what we want to do is add an opacity animation. So if we press T, we can bring up the opacity setting, and we're going to create keyframes to do this. Click the stopwatch at the very beginning of these compositions to set an opacity for 100%. If we nudge over by pressing Command right arrow on a Mac, Control right arrow on a PC, and then we drop the opacity to 0, what happens is it creates another keyframe, and it says here it needs to be 100%, here 0. That's how you create an animation in After Effects. If we nudge over 2 frames and then set another keyframe for 0 by clicking this Add or Remove Keyframe diamond right here on the left, if we have all of them selected, it will create a keyframe for all of them. The reason why I want to create another one for 0 is because if we just went and instead created it at 100%, it's not going to flicker on. It's kind of fades on. So let's set that at 0. Then again, nudge over to the right, 100. Maybe nudge right once, back to 0, nudge right once, 1 frame, and back to 100. So now if we play this, pretty good. Now you can add as many flickers as you want, make it a little bit longer, see what looks natural to you. But one thing that will make it look and sound more natural is adding our neon sign audio. So if we drag this into our composition and we press LL on our keyboard, we can see the waveform. And this is good because we see that there's actually the click on right at the beginning in the first frame. So we want that to match up with when our light turns on. So if we play through it, that's pretty cool, right? Nice. So that adds to it. The other thing that will make this more natural is if there's a subtle sort of flicker throughout. Neon signs kind of, and fluorescent light bulbs, they do have that little flicker on, but they kind of also have a flickering throughout as well. So again, let's select our on layers and press T to bring up opacity. Now we're going to use an expression, which will sort of randomly turn on and off the opacity. To do that, for this top layer, let's just press Option and then click the stopwatch. That will be Alt for PC users. Then type in wiggle, left parentheses, 60, 20. So what that's saying is that it's going to adjust the opacity 60 times per second at a rate of 20% of the opacity. So let's copy this and we'll do the same to the other neon sign lights. So Option click, paste, go to the next one, Option click the stopwatch, paste, and then same for the light in the back. Now if we play through it, let's click off, play through it. You get this sort of subtle flickering effect, which is pretty darn cool. Lastly, one thing I want to do is to make this a little bit more cinematic, let's add a camera push into the sign. Now there's different ways to do camera motions, but the easiest way is just to add that camera layer. We're going to change all of these layers, select all of them except for the audio, and turn on 3D. So it's this little cube column. Just check that box on for all of these layers. And now if we go into our camera transform properties, we set a position keyframe at the very beginning, then go forward and move forward and just move that keyframe to the end of our composition. Now if we render this out, so you might have to change the quality. I changed it to half so that we can see it play properly. Hey, but that is pretty darn cool. All right, what did you think? Thought this was a cool tutorial? I thought it was pretty cool. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want other tutorials like this, you can always head over to my YouTube channel at Video School Online. You can go to the Facebook page. You can head over to videoschoolonline.com for lots more tutorials. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and have a beautiful day.